GLC invites you to visit us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/GLCTV. Here you can stay in touch with all of the latest GLC news along with daily scriptural inspirations, current specials in our bookstore, links to our newest shows, and online media, plus articles from trusted sources. Feel free to drop us a message or a question by posting to our page. Please help us out and like our page by clicking on the thumbs up button. Don't delay. Drop by the GLC Facebook page at facebook.com/GLCTV. We want to interact with you today.
Well, praise God and welcome to the weekend update. The gang is all here, Mom.
They are.
And welcome.
Everybody.
Welcome.
Okay, first things first.
Okay, we're going to talk about tunnels today, aren't we?
In a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was telling Amy, we've been in a tunnel since for a while, and we can begin to hope to see the end of the tunnel and the light down at the end. And we can do that with your financial help. And I want to thank you for people who have been responding that way because of my book. Thank you again.
I want to thank you people who are responding that way just because.
I just want to thank you.
Because there is a light.
I just want to thank you. Hey, and guess what?
What?
Today's Monica's birthday.
Happy birthday,
Monica. You know what? She's always in the office, but Danny had the audacity to take a week of vacation. And so she's in here running cameras and floor directing for us today.
And doing awesome.
And it's wonderful to have you back in here.
Not only that, she came in my office and took my trash. Thank you, Monica.
Yeah. She wears many hats.
She knows I'm a dirty old man.
She's been taking garbage for me for a long time.
Yeah. I can attest to that. Yeah. I hear it all the time.
Okay, first and foremost, I guess we better do the weekend lineup really fast, right?
Do it.
Okay, it looks like a combination of Dr. Richard Booker and then Sandra Barras and Margie Pezdertz tonight, Friday at 8 p.m., Sunday at 5 a.m., and Monday really early in the morning at 1 a.m. And then we would have Boaz Michael and Toby Janicki, the First Fruits of Zion Boys, Saturday 1 a.m., Saturday 8 p.m., and Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. And then another program with them that they recorded at the same time they were here, Saturday at 5 a.m., Sunday 8 p.m., and Monday at 2 p.m. And then Marty and Jennifer Getz, Saturday afternoon, 2 p.m., Sunday 1 a.m., and Monday at 7 a.m. And you have a letter.
I do. It starts out, I can't begin to tell you how much GLC has blessed me. I cannot send you money as I am broke, jobless, and suffer from arthritis, and am trying to get on disability at the advice of my doctor. I do, however, keep praying for everyone associated with your station, and just want to tell you all how much I love you. Tom, by Facebook. I'm glad we're receiving Facebook because I thought each night I watch the news. Now, if you want to comment, get on the Facebook and tell me.
Well, yeah, we have Facebook.
And they can do that.
That's right.
Because they can write and say, get that old man off the TV.
No, they cannot. I will override them on that one. So.
Okay.
But, yeah, Mason keeps up with the Facebook for us.
Good.
So, yeah, he was telling me earlier today that we asked him to be posting this update program on YouTube, Facebook, Google TV, all of the stuff that he connects us with, and he has been doing that. We're doing it because of the conflict in Israel. And he says he's been getting really good response from that.
Well,
the update,
good.
I mean the
update news, that's posted on those different places. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Good.
So, yay.
What's next?
A video.
Lars Innerson, and it's very interesting. This thing was recorded early Friday morning. This morning.
And so he's our live correspondent on the Gaza.
Almost.
Well, he's almost live. It's a delay because...
Well, he's not dead.
You know,
Oy
if I didn't know
vey.
better, I'd say that Rick was the one who was related to you with the bad joke.
That was great.
Yeah, see?
Okay.
Oy vey. All right, let's go to Lars Anderson. We'll be back all right after this.
Shalom from Israel. I'm Lars Enarsson with the Watchman International coming to you from the border of Gaza. Today it's Friday, August the 1st, and during the night here it was announced that there has been now an agreement between Hamas and Israel to for a 3-day, 74-hour truce or ceasefire. It will start here shortly at 8 o'clock in the morning Israeli time, and then negotiations will begin in Cairo, Egypt, between the parties how to end this conflict. Israel was exposed to heavy pressure from the United States yesterday to end this, to agree to a ceasefire. There were accusations coming both from the White House, from the State Department, and also the Pentagon that Israel has caused too many civilian deaths here in Gaza. So Israel was very pressured by the United States to agree to this ceasefire. Now, Israel has said certain conditions must be met now before Israel will withdraw from Gaza. The first is that all the tunnels that lead into Israel from Gaza must first be destroyed. Secondly, Israel says that Hamas must be, or Gaza must be a demilitarized zone. This is very difficult to understand how this can be accomplished without Hamas being defeated first. We've spoken about that in earlier video alerts here, that Hamas will never agree to that unless they are defeated first, and unless Israel stays in Gaza and oversee this disarmament of Hamas. We all know what happened in the Second Lebanon War in 2006, when the negotiations were held and Israel agreed to a ceasefire and end of the conflict based on the fact that Hezbollah could not be rearmed again, and the UN was responsible to oversee the disarmament of Hezbollah. We all know what happened. Today Hezbollah is 10 times stronger militarily than what they were before the Lebanon War in 2006. So we need to pray, friends. Interestingly, the ceasefire that has now been agreed upon will end the same day that in the afternoon Israel will begin the fast on the 5th month on the biblical calendar. In Hebrew it's called Tisha B'Av, and this is a day on the biblical calendar when many, many calamities and tragic things have happened to the Jewish people throughout their history. It all began with the 10 spies returning from the promised land with an evil report of unbelief, causing the people to lose heart and say, we want a new leader instead of Moses, going back to Egypt again. And also we know that both the temples were destroyed on Tisha B'Av. The Jews were expelled from Spain on this date. They were expelled from England in 1290 on this very date, and so forth. And interestingly, also the Jewish people were forced out of Gaza on the 9th of Av. The Israeli government had set that very date to force all of their citizens out of Gaza. In the very last moment, it was changed, postponed 24 hours in order to not have a correspondence with Tisha B'Av. But from the beginning, that was the decision. So they did this in order, with a promise that there would be peace and quiet here. We all know what happened. Israel has now fought 3 bloody wars against Hamas here in Gaza. And if Hamas is not defeated or disarmed, there will be conflicts here again in the future. So we need to pray, friends, that Israel will stand strong in these negotiations in Egypt, that they will not agree to wrong conditions this time. Please stand with us in prayer. I'm Lars Enarsson with the Watchman International.
Well, according to various AP and Arut Sheva articles that I pulled from today, despite the fact that a UN and U.S. brokered 72-hour humanitarian ceasefire went into effect at 8 a.m. Friday morning, as Lars just told you, Hamas fired yet another salvo of rockets on Israel. The IDF spokesperson's office announced that about 9:30 a.m., Hamas terrorists emerged from a tunnel on the outskirts of Rafah behind IDF army lines and opened fire on Israeli forces in southern Gaza, killing 2 soldiers. A third soldier, second lieutenant, platoon leader Hadar Golden, 23 years of age, from Kfar Saba in the Gavadi Brigade, was kidnapped today. An investigation is underway, and at this time, as the IDF maintains a high-level operational and intelligence effort to locate the soldier. A senior IDF commander stated on condition of anonymity that it's unclear if the missing soldier is in full health or if he was wounded during the attack. I will tell you that I received a later news brief from EVP, and the soldier was indeed wounded before he was kidnapped. At least one report, this time from Walla News, says that a suicide bomber detonated himself directly next to IDF forces before that fighting began, wounding several soldiers. Intense clashes ensued. According to Palestinian media sources, 30 were killed, at least 8 terrorists among them, and roughly 100 wounded. UN Special Coordinator for Middle East Peace, Robert Siri, said in a statement regarding the incident, if corroborated, this would constitute a serious violation of the humanitarian ceasefire by Gazan militant factions, which should be condemned in the strongest terms. Meanwhile, Islamic Jihad officials were told by Egypt that talks for a long-term truce have been postponed.
Hours before the ceasefire, a statement was released in New Delhi, where Secretary of State John Kerry is traveling, which said the U.S. and UN had received assurances that all parties to the conflict had agreed to the unconditional ceasefire. The statement also indicated that under the ceasefire, Israeli troops on the ground in Gaza could continue to destroy tunnels along the heavily guarded frontier, but only those behind Israeli defensive lines and that lead into Israel. Prior to this, at least 4 humanitarian ceasefires have been broken since the conflict began, all by Hamas. According to the AFP, Hamas has tried to blame the broken ceasefire on Israel, their spokesman saying in a statement it is the occupation which violated the ceasefire. The Palestinian resistance acted based on the right to self-defense and to stop the massacres of our people. Hamas also claimed reports of the abduction, which had not been confirmed at the time, were simply justification for Israel retreating from the truce and a cover-up for massacres, especially in Rafah. Late Tuesday, rare remarks by Hamas military wings leader Mohammed Deif were broadcast on Al-Aqsa TV, the satellite station of Hamas. There is not going to be a ceasefire as long as the demands of our people are not fulfilled, he said. Deif's voice was recognizable in the audio statement. He has survived repeated Israeli assassination attempts and has operated from hiding for years. Al-Aqsa also broadcast a videotape, it said, showed an infiltration by Hamas fighters into Israel on Monday through a border tunnel. Hamas has demanded the lifting of an Israeli and Egyptian border blockade imposed on Gaza in 2007 when the Islamic militant group seized power, as well as the release of Palestinians rounded up in the West Bank in June following the killing of 3 Israeli teenagers.
And then on Thursday night, 5 soldiers were killed from rocket or mortar fire near the Gaza border. All of them served in the 188th Armored Brigade, also known as the Lightning Brigade. Also on Thursday, the Israeli military said it was calling up an additional 16,000 reserve soldiers to pursue its campaign against the Islamic militants. Officials said the purpose of the latest call-up was to provide relief for troops currently on the Gaza firing line and amounted to a rotation that left the overall number of militarized, mobilized reservists at around 70,000. They spoke on condition of anonymity in line with regulations. However, Israeli officials have also said they do not rule out broadening operations in the coming days. On Wednesday, 3 soldiers, part of a unit conducting a house-to-house search for tunnel openings, lost their lives in a booby-trapped UNRWA medical clinic. Also on Wednesday, an IDF task force uncovered a tunnel entrance on the ground floor of a mosque that had been used by Hamas terrorists to attack Israeli soldiers. The IDF had previously provided video evidence that Hamas fires rockets from inside of schools. On Tuesday, a stockpile of rockets was discovered at a 3rd UN school. Also this week, the UNRWA blamed Israel for a strike on Gaza's Shifa hospital, resulting in the deaths of over a dozen Gazans. It was later revealed that in all likelihood, a misfired Hamas Fajr 5 Iranian-made 100-kilogram warhead destined for Israel had actually struck the hospital. Israel has now lost 63 soldiers, 2 Israeli civilians, and a Thai agricultural person.
Israel's ground campaign has concentrated on ending rocket attacks on its cities and destroying cross-border tunnels militants constructed to carry out attacks inside Israeli territory. The IDF reports that most of the 32 cross-border tunnels discovered so far during the conflict have been demolished. The tunnel network is a strategic threat to Israel. Israel says the tunnels are meant to facilitate mass attacks on civilians and soldiers inside Israel, as well as kidnappings, a tactic that Hamas has used in the past. Palestinian militants trying to sneak into Israel through the tunnels have been found with sedatives and handcuffs, an indication they were planning abductions, the military says. Several soldiers have been killed in the current round of fighting by Palestinian gunmen who popped out of the underground tunnels near Israeli communities along the Gaza border. The Iron Dome defense system has been credited with saving countless lives as Hamas militants fired nearly 3,000 rockets at Israel since hostilities began, some reaching major cities, but most intercepted by the Iron Dome. On Thursday alone, more than 100 rockets were fired toward Israeli cities. One rocket was intercepted over Tel Aviv, the Army said. Another rocket, which exploded in a residential area of Kiryat Gat in southern Israel, seriously wounded an Israeli, damaged a house, and destroyed several cars parked on the street.
And in Geneva, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, accused both Israel and Hamas militants of violating the rules of war. She said Hamas is violating international humanitarian law by locating rockets within schools and hospitals, or even launching these rockets from densely populated areas. But she added that this did not absolve Israel from disregarding the same law. The Israeli government, she said, has defied international law by attacking civilian areas of Gaza, such as schools, hospitals, homes, and UN facilities. Pillay also took aim at the U.S., Israel's main ally, for providing financial support for Israel's Iron Dome anti-rocket defense system. No such protection has been provided to Gazans against the shelling, she said. The good news is that the new Pew poll shows that Democrats are split evenly on who is most responsible for the war, but self-identified Republicans and independents strongly side with Israel.
Okay, well, this comes to us from Reuters. A U.S. aid worker who was infected with the deadly Ebola virus while working in West Africa will be flown to the United States to be treated in a high-security ward at Emory University Hospital in Atlanta. Hospital officials have told us this on Thursday. The aid worker, whose name has not been released, will be moved in the next several days to a special isolation unit at Emory. The unit was set up in collaboration with the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Here earlier on Thursday, White House spokesman Josh Earnest said the State Department was working with the CDC on medical evacuations of infected American humanitarian aid workers. News of the transfer follows reports of the declining health of two infected U.S. aid workers, Dr. Kent Brantley and missionary Nancy Whitebull, who contracted Ebola while working in Liberia on behalf of North Carolina-based Christian relief groups Samaritan's Purse and SIM. CNN and ABC News reported that a second American infected with Ebola was to be flown to the United States. CNN identified the U.S.-bound patients as Brantley and Whitebull. Reuters could not independently confirm the reports. CDC Director Dr. Thomas Frieden said in a conference call that transferring gravely ill patients has the potential to do more harm than good. The CDC director could not comment on the specifics of treatments given to Brantley or Whitebull, but said, "We have reviewed the evidence of the treatments out there and don't find any treatment that has proven effectiveness against Ebola. In its final stages, Ebola causes external and internal bleeding, vomiting, and diarrhea. About 60% of people infected in the current outbreak are dying from the illness. The outbreak in West Africa is the worst in history, having killed more than 700 people since February. On Thursday, the CDC issued a travel advisory urging people to avoid all non-essential travel to Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, the epicenter of the outbreak. According to an email from the director of the Allergy and Infectious Disease Unit of the National Institutes of Health, the NIH, they plan in mid-September to begin testing an experimental Ebola vaccine on people after seeing encouraging results in preclinical trials on monkeys. CDC spokeswoman Barbara Reynolds said the CDC was not aware of any Ebola patient ever being treated in the United States.
Until now, I guess. Well, Carrie Bauer says, have you noticed in all the press coverage of the conflict between Israel and Hamas that no one ever actually sees Hamas? Jonathan Schanzer, Vice President for Research at the Foundation of the Defense of Democracies, who was on a panel last week at the annual Christians United for Israel conference, has noticed this unusual absence of Hamas in the wall-to-wall press coverage. What's coming into our living rooms is non-stop footage of suffering Palestinian civilians. Who can help but be moved by wounded and dying women and children? It would be easy to conclude that the powerful Israeli military has declared war on defenseless Palestinians. What we are not seeing are the Hamas fighters launching rockets, often hundreds a day, at Israel. We aren't shown Hamas terrorist squads sneaking through the massive tunnel networks to launch attacks inside Israel. We have not been shown schools with stocks of rockets and mosques used to store war supplies. Hamas does not allow Western reporters to be embedded with them. Some compliant Western journalists have allowed themselves to become the propaganda tools of the Hamas jihadists. There is another missing entity in media coverage, the Islamic Republic of Iran, which is the patron of Hamas and Hezbollah. The rockets pouring into Israel are made by Iran or manufactured in Gaza with Iranian assistance. The tunnel complexes were built with Iranian advice and counsel. This seems like a fact worthy of repeating regularly if Western journalists were interested in the public having all the salient facts.
Amen.
Well, we have a few videos that we want to share with you. Compliments of the IDF and the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Combat in urban territory is different from other kinds of combat because of the local population's proximity to militants. When terrorists operate from within civilian areas, the danger of harming innocent bystanders always exists. Hamas uses this risk to its advantage. The IDF employs advanced technology and precision strikes in order to minimize harm to Palestinian civilians. As you can see here, the IDF struck a rocket launching site without harming a mosque nearby. But what happens when Hamas puts civilians in the line of fire? The the organization understands that Israel is reluctant to attack terrorists in civilian areas.
במטרה שלנו שהתפתח משחק כדורגל.
As a tactic, Hamas uses men, women, and children as human shields when firing rockets at Israeli civilians and IDF forces. This image from November 2012 shows the short distance, less than 100 meters, between a rocket launching site and a mosque, as well as a nearby factory. Hamas will do whatever it takes to continue its terror activity, including heinous crimes against the Palestinian population. In the face of this reality, the IDF takes extraordinary measures to minimize civilian casualties. Even so, the tactics of terrorists will not stop us from defending Israelis living under fire.
You know, here's the difference between us. We're using missile defense to protect our civilians, and they're using their civilians to protect their missiles.
أعتقد إنه أن يتعرض الناس وأن يواجهوا الطيران العسكري الإسرائيلي بصدور عارية ليحموا بيوتهم، أعتقد إنه هذه سياسة أثبتت نجاعتها.
The Rocketeers are firing from homes. These homes are actually command posts of the Hamas and Islamic Jihad army. And so we have to attack them, and we try to minimize as we can civilian casualties.
نحن مش اليوم نسوق شعبنا للإعدام وبنتفرج على، لا، احنا بنقود شعبنا إلى الموت، أقصد إلى المواجهة في مواجهة هذا المحتل.
كل الشعب الفلسطيني بيموت مش حماس، كم واحد مات من حماس؟ وين خالد الشعب الفلسطيني؟ وينهم؟ ولادهم برا بيتعذبوا.
قبل ساعتين من الآن بثلاثة صواريخ مصيبة طائرات الاستطلاع الصهيوني، يعني خطوة جريئة قامت بها المواطنون بالتجمهر أو الاعتلاء أسطح سطح هذا المنزل، يعني لمنع طائرات الاحتلال.
أن يتعرض الناس وأن يواجهوا الطيران العسكري الإسرائيلي بصدور عارية ليحموا بيوتهم، أعتقد أنه هذه سياسة أثبتت نجاعتها، ونحن في الحركة ندعو شعبنا إلى اعتماد هذه السياسة.
Wow.
A father hanging his own children to protect his house.
What a beast.
Yes.
What's wrong with that picture? I hope everyone was able to see in that first video the Hamas guys, and you could tell because of what they had on their heads, covering their faces, dragging the one kid by his arm and then picking up a full-grown man and dragging him to be part of what they were doing. So don't tell me everything is okay over there, because I know better.
Well, thank you for those videos.
Well, you're welcome. Let's see if we can get at least part of this one in. As the conflict in Gaza progresses, Hamas has shown an astounding ability to continue its attacks in the midst of Israel's ongoing offensive. Israel's protective edge is close to entering its fourth week, but Hamas has managed to continue to launch rockets while carrying out strikes within Israel. Hamas's resilience is owed partly to the group's stockpiling of rockets, along with its ability to manufacture its own weaponry and its extensive tunnel system, which has allowed the group to continue carrying out attacks. But there's another source of Hamas's durability. It has an enormous number of available fighters. Because of Hamas's status as a non-state militant group, there is no definitive count of the number of fighters the organization actually has. It's possible that because of the group's sometimes loose cell-based structure, not even Hamas leaders have an exact idea of the number of militants they command. However, most estimates of the manpower of Hamas's military wing, the Izz al-Din al-Qassam Brigade, list the force's manpower in the tens of thousands, with somewhere between 10 and 20,000 soldiers. In 2009, the International Crisis Group estimated that the Qassam Rockets Brigade had 7,000 to 10,000 full-time members with a reserve of 20,000 soldiers. IHS Janes listed the group as having 13,000 well-trained and well-equipped personnel in September 2013. So they're growing in numbers. Well, you know what? We sure love you. We thank you for standing with us. We thank you for your support of GLC as we support Israel. We love you. God bless you. Have a great weekend. Shabbat Shalom.
Amen.